Hi, and welcome to the Online MBA Spotlight with Poets and Quants. Joining me today is Jessica Ward. Jessica is the Program and Relationship Manager at Northeastern's D'Amore McKim School of Business. The total program cost is $45,000. It can be completed in as little as 2 years or as long as 5. The program was actually one of the first business schools in the US to offer a fully online MBA. And also joining us here is student Serena Tittle. Before going to business school, Serena's background includes design and technical development. Thank you both for being here today. And Jessica, I wondered if we could start with you and you could just provide a general overview of what the program entails.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having us. Really excited to chat through the Online MBA at Northeastern University today. As was mentioned, we were one of the first schools in this space. We started our first online MBA in 2006. And that means that we've had a lot of time to know what makes a great MBA and when we should adapt and change it. And so in 2012, we decided to completely revamp our offering to match where we thought and felt the industry should go in developing our students. So we've incorporated a lot of industry experts and experience-based learning into our program. And it's something that we're very proud of. We're not afraid to make adaptations and changes to our program to fit the ever-changing business world. In particular, we have courses focused on societal challenges that we think all people working in business should be aware of. So specifically, we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion and sustainability. So we're wanting to make sure that we're, when we have our students graduate our program, they have a good, well-rounded background when they go on to do the amazing things that they'll do after they have their time with us. We do have kind of an aggressive timeline. If you want to complete the OMBA quicker than 2 years, you can get it done in 18 months. 2 years is about average to complete our program. And then if you need longer than that, because some people want to take it at a slower pace, they have a very demanding job, they may not have the time or dedication that they can spend to get it complete in 2 years or 18 months, you can complete it at a pace that works for you. As well. And we have a dedicated success manager that will work with you on a plan to make sure that it fits. If you need to take a break because you're going to have a baby or get married or go on a honeymoon or take a 2-week vacation, or if you have a really demanding time at work, we work with everyone kind of based on their individual need. And so there is a lot of flexibility that we're able to offer in terms of when you can complete it based on your individual needs, because we know when people come to us, they are professionals, they have lives outside of the classroom, outside of work that they need to attend to. And so we help them with that. And you also have a lot of flexibility in our program. So about every term for the next year, we have 5 classes offered per term, which means you get to decide between registering. Most students will register between 1 and 3 courses each term, which means you kind of get to decide out of what's being offered, what you'd like to take. And of course, if you feel like you need guidance on that, we'll assist you in that as well. And most of the coursework is asynchronous. Of course, even in an asynchronous program, you're going to have deadlines because we have to make sure we're moving through content at a rate for which you'll be able to retain the information and utilize it. And also we do offer synchronous sessions where you get together with everyone. If you would like to engage with everyone once per week, an hour per course, you'll get together with your classmates and the faculty as well.
Thanks, Jessica. I feel like that was a great overview of what the program entails. And I want to ask you, follow up of just could you maybe talk for a minute about what do you think some key aspects of the program at Northeastern are that maybe differentiate it from other programs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that differentiates us most is our experiential courses that we offer. So we have a group of what we call experiential electives. Students will take a total of 5 credits of those. That could be 2 to 4 courses that they'll complete out of that. In these courses, they're all built around industry experts that we've identified. And we use their expertise in collaboration on a common problem, issue, and get to work on a project essentially through the term. And it really mimics what happens when you're working in the professional world, right? Like a problem happens and then you have to address it with your expertise. And that's really what those courses highlight. And I really love the variety that we're going to have in those courses as well, or that we have in those courses as well, you know, from sales to finance, like higher level finance courses, to healthcare. We have some great options that are available in that I think really sets us apart from what others are doing. I already mentioned the societal challenges courses. I think those also set us apart too. I think that's where MBAs are going. They're going to have to incorporate sustainability and topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because people are demanding people to pay attention to that now. And so we've kind of felt that ourselves and wanted to make sure that we were preparing students to be ready for that wave that is coming. And we're kind of already in.
Yeah, and maybe I can even ask Serena a little bit about those societal challenge courses if she's taken them. But one last follow-up for you. Are the industry experts you mentioned in the experiential learning courses, are they kind of at home to Boston? Are they regional, or do they go beyond Boston?
They go beyond Boston, yeah. So what's great about the faculty that we do have at the D'Amore McKim School of Business is it's very varied, and they have different connections throughout all of the US. Sure, there are lots of Boston connections as well, which is a great area to have a lot of great connections to, but yeah, they are varied for sure.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now kind of moving to Serena, I'd love to get a sense of kind of your background and what led you to pursue the online MBA and why you felt like the online MBA was better for you. And then, you know, after that, could you please talk through your thought process and how you ended up choosing Northeastern?
Yeah, you bet. So my career started out in product design and development. So I was in more technical fields. And then as my career evolved, I found more and more interest on managing the business side, not just developing products like the specifications, engineering of it, but how to bring it to completion. And so with that, I think I had hands-on experience of that business background, but I also wanted to make sure I was having a strong basis to build from. So that's what led me to pursuing my MBA. And my MBA had been on my radar for a very long time. The challenge for me previously was I travel a ton for work, and I was, you know, I would say previously it was very hard to find a program that would work with the flexibility that I just required, because there are some weeks where I find myself in 7 different time zones. And because of that, I mean, school is possible, but it's just, it has to be a program that's flexible that can allow me to work when it works for me, which is usually very odd hours. And so I think in a nutshell, that kind of brought me to, it was one of the standouts for Northeastern. That said, you know, flexibility was incredibly important because I wanted to continue my career. I didn't want to put my career on hold, and I thought that I could complement my career with learning at the same time. So that was a certainly appealing part of Northeastern. But it wasn't just enough. Like, flexibility wasn't the only thing I was looking for. I wanted to make sure that that building off that experiential piece that Jessica mentioned, it's great to learn things in theory, but if you can't put them into practice, to me, it was just a wasted effort. And I think a lot of programs I explored previous talked a lot in theory, but they missed that application. And what I love about the experiential courses and components, even if you're not in an experiential course per se in the Northeastern program, you still get a lot of hands-on experience. So it's not just, it's, yes, this is the theory, and then here's how we apply, or here's how we've seen it come to life. And then how have you seen it come to life? So I learn as much from the professors and the staff as I do my peers, because they're bringing their experiences as well. So yeah, the flexibility and the experiential was a huge piece that led me to Northeastern and to building off of and pursuing an MBA as well.
And thanks for sharing that background. And I wanted to ask you, get a sense of how the learning experience has been for you. You mentioned that you work and you often travel while you work. So how does that pair with classes? And I know that's also a common theme. We hear a lot of people getting an online MBA is because they still want to work. But how has that been for you?
It's been great. It's Jessica had mentioned that accelerated program, and so right now I'm still on that. I'm my goal, fingers crossed, is 18 months. But to do that, I've also just realized it requires a lot of planning, and on my part, and it needed clear communication from the program, which I have been getting, and it's been so helpful because when I start a class or I start a new term, outline in the syllabus is all the deliverables and the weeks associated. So I can then within each week, there's estimations of like, okay, well, here's the project, here's the reading, and they give highlights of, okay, you can expect, an hour or two of reading. And that helps me so much in being able to plan, because for me to continue this requires some of that organization on the front end. And I'm grateful to be receiving it from Northeastern. So that's been a huge way I've been able to manage the travel and the time zones and all the different complexities of my own life. And not to mention just having a life, right? I didn't want to give up a life. I still want to continue to live it. So, but with just some thoughtful organization, I'm able to achieve both. So while I'm on the aggressive class schedule, the organization is really a piece of that success, is being able to stay organized.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask how your interaction is with students and professors, and whether there's a lot of individual work or there's a lot of teamwork.
It's really class specific so I'd say at this point, it leans definitely more towards the group side. That said, like some of the classes are more individual. And I've just started to realize that even in some of those more individual driven classes, I'm defaulting to other colleagues and peers, I shouldn't say colleagues, peers, for group support. We're doing little study sessions, and it's been unique to be able to experience that and doing these sessions with people and all over different geographies, and still being able to help each other and build that peer experience that I would expect in like a face-to-face program. But that just meets the needs of, our lives today.
Mhm. Thank you so much for sharing, Serena. And Jessica, wanted to go over to you and ask about kind of the networking, career development, mentorship features of the program, and what opportunities there are, and how that you think compares or equates to the front and center networking options that are in maybe an in-person MBA.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's so great coming off of what Serena just said, because she just so clearly highlighted what I do think is unique about our program that I know not all online MBAs do, is create that network between peers, and then also have the flexibility to meet with faculty when you need to as well. So they have 2 opportunities per week to connect with the faculty, which are the experts in their areas. So they have a chance to connect with faculty during their office hours, and then during that live connect. We use Slack as our communication tool. So students are able to communicate and really build community there and connect with one another through that space. And we've seen that be very successful within the program. All students are eligible to attend D'Amore McKim School of Business events. So if you are in the Boston area, that is an option for you. We host online events as well. Each course has, not each course, but many of our courses have industry experts that come in to assist with that networking piece, like getting to know different perspectives, getting to know different professionals and their take on different topics, which has been extremely valuable, I believe, in the program. And so I think there are just kind of a layered approach in how we're able to create those networking opportunities for our learners. I will mention too, our students do have access to D'Amore McKim School of Business Career Services as well. So there are opportunities to connect with that resource, which also has networking capabilities as well.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier about the classes with the industry professionals. Was there anything else you wanted to add about how that interaction works with online MBA students?
Yeah, I can kind of talk through a course that just ran last term. They had a group project that they were supposed to work on. And then the industry experts weren't just coming to like a live session just to be like, let me just talk about my experience. they actually looked at the project that the students did and then provided their own professional feedback in a video to them. So they got direct feedback from CEOs about their project and idea, and then had the opportunity to use that feedback to then re-present to a CEO. And they got to make those changes as appropriately so that they could have another chance, basically. Because if you have never done that before, which some people have and some people have not, it's a very different experience presenting to a CEO versus presenting to a director, right? And so I think that is a very unique offering that we're able to offer our students. Is not only are you getting to interact with them, but they get to see your ideas and share how they would look at that as a CEO, which I think is a really cool thing that we do. Of course, we do have those opportunities where like some professionals show up in videos. So like there are pre-recorded videos where we're able to get industry experts in the actual content of our courses for module work, but then also they come to those live sessions as well too, as another form of interaction. So yeah, I think that's a unique aspect of our program. It's something that's been really cool to see put to life.
Thanks, Jessica. And another question back to you is one of technology. Being that the program started in 2006, I'm sure it's already seen its fair share of evolution and what has become available in terms of technology that has made the discourse of education just different. And so how have you seen that change? And how have you seen that maybe build a foundation for the development of future business leaders?
Yeah, I think technology is in such a like interesting place. I mean, you can't go anywhere without hearing about ChatGPT and how it's totally revolutionary, like revolutionizing everything for everyone and how they're working. And I think with that brings a lot of ethical considerations that we as human beings have to consider when we are implementing such a tool, because bias exists even for tools that are meant to be robots, right? Like that's been a proven thing that we've been able to see. Inaccuracies in that type of technology is also present. I mean, we saw that with the lawyer that used content from ChatGPT and his argument that didn't actually exist. So like, I think there are ethical implications that are crucial to take into account when thinking about how technology is revolutionizing our space. I think there are some really amazing benefits like automation and getting through things more quickly. There are less desirable jobs that this space can fill. I also think it's going to push us all to be adaptable. Like we're going to have to figure out new technologies and be able to implement them immediately. And I think that's kind of how I see things evolving over the next years. I could talk a very long time about this. I just think there are so many different ways for which technology is evolving and pushing us places, which I think we really have to be conscious about what outcomes they're actually giving us, and will they get us the results we need and where we're going.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective. Yeah, thank you for saying that. To Serena, I wanted to ask you and see if you could talk a little bit about the impact of the program, whether it's had any impact on your current role or how you're thinking ahead when you plan the next steps of your career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's certainly both. The class that Jessica was just talking about, the experiential one, I was in it. And I think about that and the direct correlations it has to my roles now. And it's being able to come up with ideas, and present them, and then take feedback and evolve a project. So there's certainly, I think every class I've taken so far, irrespective of the subject matter, I walk away pretty immediately with some takeaway that I can incorporate today. But then thinking a more broad picture of what it means for my career, for me personally, it's still being determined, but I love the amount of options it gives me. So I think going through this course, especially with some of like the entrepreneurship and innovation concentration that the program offers, it's giving me a framework to be thinking about, like, what do I want next? And I don't necessarily have the answer at the moment, but I think it really gives me a lot of options to be thinking about how can I leverage, say, the career services that the graduate school offers, or if I want to go out and do something on my own, and how do I can leverage the learnings that I'm able to incorporate. So it, if anything, it just gives me a lot more options than I would have anticipated going into the program.
Yeah, and you mentioned your concentration, and I should have asked you, do you have any thoughts about the ethics behind technology, or just some of the things that you've learned in business school that has kind of developed your thinking as a future business leader about where you'd like to go, or where you'd like to see maybe the world and society go?
Yeah, and this builds off of one of the classes too that Jessica mentioned about incorporating societal challenges. So there was last semester a class on that, and a whole subject matter was talking about the ethics behind it. And what I so appreciated was, so it intertwined so many different topics. So I think about like marketing, for instance, right? There's so many things around like influencing and perception. And frankly, those can be impactful, but they can also be they can borderline on manipulation. And so what I appreciate is that when it was talked about in that class, in direct complement, we talked about the ethics behind it. And so when I think about the subject matter, I think they're doing a really great, like the classes I've taken so far have done a really great job about thinking as a broader system of the impacts, not just say, hey, we learn one thing and that's it. And then the next subject, next week we do a different subject. It's thinking broadly. And so when I think about the technological components, you mentioned ChatGPT, and that same professor had just said, I'm curious, she opened it up to the students and said, I'm curious, what do you think could be the role of GPT or AI within higher education? And, it was interesting hearing that it was in one of our live sessions, and having all the students attend, we got a variety of responses. And in taking a step back, I just also so appreciate that the facilitator and the professor didn't just come in with a standpoint already made, but actually brought in considerations of the students and how perhaps there's areas that might be impactful and then some areas unethical. And so being able to look at, I think a common theme I'm seeing, whether it's my engagements with the staff and the professors, and I've had similar occasions working with Jessica on different feedback, but like looking at both sides of the equation. So I think that really deepens the learnings and the takeaways as well.
Yeah, I'm hearing it deepens the applicability too, like real life applicability. And
Absolutely.
it certainly sounds like an enriching classroom environment when a professor just poses a question about what students think.
Yeah.
Sticking with you, Serena, I wanted to know if you could just talk maybe 3 highlights. These could be memories, experiences, things you've learned so far getting the degree.
Oh, okay. So 3 highlights. I might just keep them fairly broad, but the first highlight that I'm thinking about is just the peer interactions. And maybe I should just say interactions, because while I really loved getting to know some of my cohort, I've also really appreciated the interactions I've had with some of the professors as well. Like there's just different subject matter and areas of research that they do, and that they might not even, what they research may not be exactly what they're covering in that class I'm working with them on, but being able to talk with them and learn about that too has just been so engaging. Another standout would be that experiential class. It was such a great opportunity to work with the cohort and our group and then say, hey, you know what, let's pull in as much as we can from all the classes that we've completed already and put it into real world application even further. And it was engaging. It was lively. It was like, we had a joke, the group I was on, when we wrapped up that semester, we were like, well, what are we going to do when we're not always just like running ideas off each other like Slack? I mean, I think Slack was just my most used app because we were just checking in with each other so often. So that's certainly been a key piece of this. And I think just the flexibility, like the fact that I've been able to continue my career, I've been continue to work. I have been able to take vacations. Essentially, I've been able to also enjoy my life while working and in school. It's not always easy, but the fact that I can continue all 3 means so much to me. And I feel like there's something that is a standout of this program, and it's something I have not been able to see in any other program.
Thank you for sharing. And Jessica, now is kind of a concluding thought. I wondered if we could look ahead a bit and ask you, where you think maybe the online degree might be evolving in the next 3 to 5 years. It's a very broad question, so take it how you like it.
Yeah, I think so many things when I hear where do you think it's going in the next 3 to 5 years. I think part of what is happening now is like our world, like we're so much more connected and global than we've ever been. And I think there's only going to be an increase of that. So I think there's going to have to be a focus on like that globalization that's happening for us and how we are going to manage and work with, different time zones and people and cultures. And so I think that is certainly going to be happening in the next 3 to 5 years. I think all programs are going to have to be very adaptable. I think they're going to have to start to talk about topics that are difficult for people to talk to. Like I mentioned, we are already doing with the societal challenges courses and specifically looking at diversity, equity, inclusion, and sustainability. I think everyone is going to have to adapt to that and grow their programs in such a way. I also have seen a trend in people wanting this credential sooner. Like, I think people are just like, I want to get this like done right away. Like, I want my MBA right away. And I think that's because we're seeing an increase in people needing to build up their soft skills. And so I think all programs will really have to make sure that they are helping students develop their ability to work in a team, to communicate, to work with people that are different than them. I think there's just nothing that is like being able to have those soft skills along with all of the hard skills that we provide through our core curriculum as well. So that's kind of where I see it going. I'm interested to see what happens in the next few years, but that's my take for now.
Yeah, some really interesting points you had there. Before we try to gather some information from Jessica, I wondered if we could ask Serena whether she had any final thoughts.
Yeah. Ooh, final thoughts. It has been an exciting, there's ups and downs. It's a high intensity given the path that I chose of the accelerated learning, but it has certainly been rewarding. And I think there's more than a few times where I've had a moment where I've learned something in whatever course I was in and go, oh, that's how I could have improved that experience I had 3 years before in my career. Okay, well, now I know better going forward. So that's probably one of my favorite pieces of those aha moments I get now.
Well, thank you for the both once again for being here and sharing about your experience in your program. Jessica, would you mind maybe sharing some information for students that are watching and might have interest in the program?
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome to reach out to me. We also have a success manager that supports the program really intimately that are happy to talk through anything that you may have. You can find our information if you just go to Northeastern University's website and look at the Online MBA. You also can email us at onlinemba@northeastern.edu. We're on there all the time. We're happy to do individual meetings with anyone that would like to talk on the phone, email. We make ourselves very available. It's really great to get involved with us now because then you'll be with us in the program. We tend to be very high touch and work with our students very intimately when they're in the program so that they know that they have support no matter what and places to go when they have questions, concerns. And so please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Serena.